Hi, it's Will from the Yukon Gold podcast. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, but if you haven't, there's an easier way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's completely free, it's online and mobile, and there's creation tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google, Stitcher, Amazon, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Now, if that seems like a good idea to you, follow this link below and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Yukon Gold podcast with Will S. Yukon Gold is about creating a sustainable future for everyone on planet Earth. We helped reach their full potential by delivering the gold standard in renewable energy. Follow, like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and check us out at yukongoldenergy.com. Today on the podcast, I would like to talk about something that's been interesting developments in the last few years, and that is hydrogen fuel cells, which could actually be a competitor to traditional electric cars, including Tesla. Now, they've been on the commercial market for more than a few years. They have commercial viability in operation at warehouses for forklifts in the U.S. in more than 40 states, including Amazon and Walmart. There are fuel cell buses planned in Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Massachusetts, as well as California. There are consumer hydrogen refueling stations increasing throughout the world. Toyota and Honda are teaming up with the government of Quebec to build a hydrogen infrastructure in Montreal this year. And even the Saudi Arabia is getting its first station. Toyota, the world's second largest automaker, is the largest player in the U.S. consumer market for hydrogen fuel cell cars. Its Murray hydrogen fuel cell family car has found 5,000 buyers since it was introduced in the fall of 2015. Russ Coble, a spokesman in Toyota's Environmental Advanced Technology Group, said the company expects sales to increase as more fueling stations open. Toyota has long maintained that hydrogen fuel cell technology would be a zero-emission solution across a broad spectrum of vehicle types. Toyota says the scalability of hydrogen fuel cells also has led to applications for California feasibility studies and other interests, Tesla semi-trailer trucks. Honda has also made a big commitment to hydrogen. There are currently 1,100 Honda Clarity fuel cell vehicles on the road in the U.S. Honda also offers the Clarity fuel cell in California for lease. It offers battery, electric power, and hybrid versions of the car for sale. Honda and Toyota have teamed up with a subsidiary of Shell Oil to bring a new hydrogen fueling stations in California. 2 have thus far been built, and 5 are in the works. The company is advocating for stations in the Northeast United States, with several in development. Partnering with other hydrogen fuel cell manufacturers and industry influencers makes sense. We all have skin in the game. Elon Musk is not very bullish on fuel cells. He has dismissed hydrogen fuel cells as a mind-boggling stupid, and is not only the negative thing he has said to the technology, he has called them fool cells, a load of rubbish, and told Tesla shareholders in an annual meeting ago that success is not simply possible. Musk found a surprising source of support in 2017 from Yoshisaku Tanaka, the chief engineer in charge of the Ferrari, it's better to charge the car directly by plugging in, but the Tesla executive said that hydrogen is a viable alternative to gasoline. We don't really see an adversary zero-sum relationship between the EV, battery power, electric, and the hydrogen car. It's not about to give up on the hydrogen fuel cell technology. The auto industry has not embraced Musk's battery or bust vision of the future. In California, the debate continues over the subsidies offered by the state to jumpstart the fuel cell market have paid back the investment is judged by the limited use of refueling stations. Paid back the investment is judged by the limited lack of refueling stations and lack of profits. California is committed in an effort under former Governor Jerry Brown to fund renewable energy initiatives, which included a $900 million zero-emissions vehicles plan and funding for electric vehicle charging infrastructure, including 200 hydrogen stations by the year 2025. We could see hydrogen fuel cell systems that cost 4 times less than lithium-ion batteries, as well as providing a much longer range. General Motors has not released a fuel cell vehicle for the consumer market, but it has a joint venture with Honda to produce fuel cell stacks in the Michigan plant, a deal that started in 2013 and expanded in 2017, when both companies said the Michigan plant is where the fuel cells are being made and produced vehicles starting in the year 2020. Ford has experimented with fuel cell variants of its Focus and Fusion cars, as well as the Edge crossover, but it does not offer any vehicles for sale. With a steadily growing share of renewable energies, hydrogen fuel cells will play a role in the future. In terms of widespread market launch, however, the battery is currently in a superior position to the fuel cell, not least because of the cost situation and the available infrastructure. Our work will continue to focus on electrification as we monitor hydrogen's progress. They have no current plans to offer hydrogen fuel cell cars. The cost of manufacturing a material is so low that energy density it can store is so much higher than a lithium-ion battery. We can still see hydrogen fuel cells systems that cost 4 times less than lithium-ion batteries, as well as providing a longer range. The technology has been licensed for a for-profit company called Quebec, set up by Antonelli. Car model and refueling prices are the remaining big issues. Safety is a concern. Hydrogen is flammable, but so is gasoline and lithium-ion batteries. The transportation of hydrogen for use at refueling stations poses additional safety risks. Stations use sensors to monitor for leaks. There have not been serious incidents reported in California, and the tech industry sector has been transporting hydrogen for decades. According to the National Fire Protection Association, an alternative fueled vehicles, a category that includes both hydrogen fuel cell and battery-powered electric, are not more hazardous than traditional internal combustion engines. The NFPA statistics reveal that approximately every 3 minutes there is a car fire in the U.S. with an internal combustion vehicle engine. The biggest hurdle is the cost. The average price for a hydrogen fuel cell in California is about $16 per kilogram. Gasoline is sold by the gallon volume and hydrogen by the kilogram weight. To put that in perspective, 1 gallon of gasoline is about the same amount of energy as 1 kilogram of hydrogen. Most fuel cell electric cars carry about 5 kilograms to 6 kilograms of hydrogen, but go twice the distance of a modern internal combustion car, with equivalent gas in the tank, which works out to gasoline per gallon equivalent between $5 and $6. Hydrogen fuel cell cars now average between 312 miles and 380 miles in a range, according to the latest EPA. They cost about $80 to refuel from an empty. Most drivers don't let the tank run down empty before they refuel, so end up refueling at a cost of $55 to $65. The cost is currently being paid by automakers who provide leasees with prepaid cards for 3 years for refueling up to $15,000. In California, which has the nation's highest gas prices, filling up a conventional car with a large gas tank can cost $40 or more. Biggest problem: cars remain expensive. Leasing has been a popular choice for fuel cell electric battery cars because the technology is new and early adopters don't want to be tied to a current model for a long time as the technology advances and efficiency improves. A few 100,000 cars in California is not that far off, and that is just Toyota. This is not about subsidizing the entire growth of infrastructure, but helping to get over the hump, and that is on the horizon. If we get to a few 100,000 cars, we can easily start to sunset government subsidies and be self-sustaining. The first hydrogen refueling infrastructure in Quebec is expected to be operational. Stated, 20. So there is a fuel station already in development in Quebec City. The station is a cooperation between Hydrogenics and Harwino Energies. Canadian-based Hydrogenics will provide the necessary electrolyzer, and Harwino Energies is one of the largest gas station chains in the province. The first station is expected to be operational next month. Both this station and the new one has been planned for Montreal, which will produce each about 200 kilograms of hydrogen per day. This is about equal to 50 H2 vehicle fill-ups. The investment will create an environment where we can continue to test our products and educate Canadians on the vast potential of hydrogen-powered vehicles, knowing that mass adoption will take some time. All right. 5 fast facts about hydrogen. Fuel cells. These technologies are up and coming and will be added to the nation's diverse energy mix. Number 1, hydrogen is the most abundant element on Earth. Hydrogen is an alternative fuel that has very high energy content by weight, is locked up in enormous quantities of water, hydrocarbons, and other organic material. Hydrogen can be produced from domestic resources, including fossil fuels, biomass, and water electrolysis with wind, solar, or grid electricity. The environmental impact and energy efficiency of hydrogen depends on how it is produced. Fuel cells can be used to power several applications. Hydrogen and fuel cells can be used in a broad range of applications. They range from powering buildings, cars, trucks, portable electronic devices, backup power systems. However, the fuel cells can be grid independent. They are also an attractive option for critical load functions such as data centers, telecom towers, hospitals, emergency response systems, and even military applications. Fuel cells are a clean way to produce power. Fuel cells are similar to batteries in that they produce electricity without combustion or emissions. Unlike batteries, fuel cells do not run down or need to recharge as long as there's a constant source of fuel and oxygen. Compared to conventional gasoline engines, fuel cell vehicles can even reduce carbon dioxide up to half if hydrogen is produced by natural gas and by 90% if the hydrogen is produced by renewable energy, such as wind or solar. There are no pollutants emitted from the tailpipe, just water. Fuel cell cars are very similar to traditional gasoline power cars. Similar to today's electric vehicles, fuel cell vehicles have a driving range for more than 300 miles on one tank of hydrogen fuel. They can refuel in just a few minutes, and the fueling experience is almost identical to a gas station. Since the engine has no moving parts, you'll never need to change the oil. Just because a fuel cell is more than twice as efficient as an internal combustion engine, a fuel cell car travels farther on the tank of hydrogen than a traditional car would on gasoline, and this means you only need about half the amount of hydrogen, which will double the fuel economy. There are more than 30 hydrogen stations in California already. More than 30 public retail hydrogen fueling stations online in California, which plans to install over 100. There are several stations ready to open up in the Northeast. Careful planning, the focus has been added to add hydrogen mostly at existing gasoline stations. These efforts are giving early fuel cell car adopters confidence that they can drive normally and have access to hydrogen wherever they go within these regions. Efforts are also underway in Hawaii, with other markets expected to develop as consumer demand increases. All right. A fuel cell. is a device that uses hydrogen or hydrogen-rich fuel and oxygen to create electricity. Fuel cells are more energy efficient than combustion engines, and hydrogen used to power them can come from a variety of sources. If pure hydrogen is used as a fuel, the fuel cells emit only heat and water, eliminating the concerns about air pollutants or greenhouse gases. One of the most common types of fuel cell is the polymer electrolyte membrane (PEM) fuel cell. The PEM fuel cell consists of an electrolyte membrane sandwiched between an anode, a negative electrode, and a cathode, a positive electrode. The PEM is a thin, solid organic compound, typically the consistency of plastic wrap and about as thick as 2 to 7 sheets of paper. This membrane functions as an electrolyte, a substance that conducts charged ions, in this case protons, but does not conduct electrons. This allows the solution to conduct electricity. This membrane must be kept moist to conduct particles through it. The anode is at the cathode electrode in which oxidization, loss of electrons takes place. In a fuel cell, the anode is electrically negative. The anode is composed of platinum particles uniformly supported on carbon particles. The platinum acts as a catalyst, increasing the rate of the oxidization process. The anode is so porous that the hydrogen can pass through. The cathode is the electrode at which the reduction, the gaining of electrons takes place. In a fuel cell, the cathode is electrically positive. The cathode is composed of platinum particles uniformly supported on carbon particles. The platinum acts as a catalyst, increasing the rate of the reduction process. The cathode is porous so that oxygen can pass through it. Flow plates. Flow plates perform important functions. They channel hydrogen and oxygen to the electrodes. They channel water and heat away from the fuel cell. They conduct electrons from the anode to the electrical circuit and form the circuit back to the cathode. H2 and the anode. Hydrogen fuel cells fuel is channeled to the anode, where the catalyst separates the hydrogen negatively charged electrons from the positively charged ions. The membrane allows the positively charged protons to pass back to the cathode, but not the negatively charged electrons. The negatively charged electrons must flow around the membrane through an external circuit. This flow of electrons forms an electrical current. At the cathode, the negatively charged electrons and positively charged hydrogen ions combine with oxygen to form water and heat. Fuel cell stack. The amount of power produced by a fuel cell depends on several factors, including the fuel cell type, cell size, temperature. A single fuel cell produces less than 1.616 volts, barely enough electricity for even the smallest applications. To increase the amount of electricity generated, fuel cells are combined in series into a fuel cell stack. This typical fuel cell stack may consist of hundreds of fuel cells. Fuel cells are a flexible technology and have a broad range of applications. Fuel cells can be used to provide propulsion or auxiliary power to transportation applications, including cars, buses, trains, ships, and submarines. They also have been used to provide auxiliary power on spacecraft for decades. Stationary power. Stationary fuel cell units can be used to back up power for remote locations, standalone power plants for cities and towns, distributed generation for buildings, and cogeneration, in which excess thermal energy from electricity generation is used for heat. Fuel cells can be used to power a variety of portable devices, from handheld electronics like cell phones and radios to larger equipment such as portable generators. They can be used for almost any application, typically powered by batteries, but can last up to 3 times longer than refueling. Long story short, fuel cells are an up-and-coming technology. They're becoming more and more commercially viable, just like electric cars are. Like I mentioned earlier, they're going to be part of the energy portfolio. If this is something that you're interested in hearing more about, feel free to give me a shout. Follow us on our social media. Yukon Gold Energy on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Yukon Gold is about creating a sustainable future for everyone on planet Earth. We help people to reach their full potential by delivering the gold standard in renewable energy. Follow, like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and check us out at yukongoldenergy.com. Cheers.